Happy Tuesday, Flosstube. Hello, crafty friends. My name's Caroline. Welcome back, Daily Crafty Chat. So, I wanted to call you all last night. and tell you, I tell you my sad story, because I knew you would all understand, and I knew you would all be equally as horrified as I was. So your next thought is probably, oh no, the socks didn't fit. Well, I don't know if the socks didn't fit, because guess who probably most likely left them at home in London? This girl right here. Yeah, I searched everywhere. I searched every project bag. I searched every pile of fabric for the sewing business. I searched even my clothes drawers, thinking that possibly maybe I tucked them in there. And they're not here. They're not here. The only thing that I can think that happened is in my memory, I packed those socks at the end of May when I was getting ready to move up here, when I thought I was coming up here the first time. And so in my mind, in my memory, they were packed and ready to go. And they were in a bin that I didn't touch until I finally did come up here. I very carefully packed, when I packed again, I packed very carefully a gift bag so that I would have a nice, flat, clean, tidy bag with nice wrapping paper and everything. And that arrived perfectly safely, but I can't find the socks. They're at home somewhere. And the story gets better, because I never told you this. While I was in the hospital for the day having surgery, my family, the rest of my little family, they were so sweet. You remember I moved my sewing studio upstairs. Well, I still had a lot of stuff left over in the old space that still needed to be sorted and reorganized, and that area needed to be sort of amalgamated back into our living room space. And those very kind souls of my family did that while I was at the hospital having surgery that day. They neatly boxed everything up and they piled it all in the kitchen so that when I was feeling better, I could take my leisure and you know, move everything to its new home. And I suspect the socks are in there, because I had John, I FaceTimed John, and I said, okay, now flip the camera around so that I can see where you're walking, and I'm going to direct you to a few places that I think they might be. And they weren't there. They weren't there. So the only thing I can think of is that they are tucked into one of the boxes that the family packed away, and no one can remember seeing them. Because why would they? They're a pair of gray socks. I wanted to call you. I wanted to call everybody in Flosstube land and just say, look what I did. Look what I didn't do, I should say. Anyways, it's my father-in-law's failing. This is very tongue-in-cheek, okay? I'm clearly not pleased that he's starting to have memory trouble. However, you know, as we age, sometimes we get a little forgetful about things, and that's the stage that my father-in-law is at, and he gets a little forgetful about things. So he doesn't remember that I was knitting him a pair of socks, because I told him about them at Christmas time last year, and you know, it was a 2-minute conversation. So he doesn't remember that I was knitting him a pair of socks. So it's the only thing in my favor, because I don't know when I'm going to be back again to go through all of those boxes and find them. So, no matter. But let me show you something funny. I have you on top of one of those Sterilite bins, you know, the plastic front cover bins. So I'm just going to open this up. So if it gets a little wobbly, you'll know why. Guess what I did find? Gray sock yarn. This is left over from a pair of socks that I knit for Sarah. I used, because I finished them here, and I or no, were they? These ones were meant for me. I knit Sarah a pair of gray socks with black heels and toes. And I had meant to knit a matching pair for myself, and so they were still tucked in the drawer here. So I may not have a pair of gray socks for my father-in-law, but if I get desperate enough, I guess I could always cast on another pair. Honestly, can you believe that I did that? And everybody's been so kind and leaving me all these comments. That's so wonderful. He's gonna love them, and I hope they fit, and did they fit? And I don't know. To be continued. The saga of the gray socks shall be continued. Anyways, the other funny thing to share with you today is once again about milk. I seem to spend more time talking about milk on this Flosstube channel than probably most other crafters talking about milk on their channel. Firstly, because I'm a Canadian, and where I live in Ontario, we still use bagged milk. And sorry, I had to empty my memory card there, it was full. Something I always forget to do. Bagged milk. So we use bagged milk, and lots of people wrote me yesterday and said, I mentioned yesterday that I'm rationing milk at the moment because, well, it's a challenge to go shopping. And so milk is a little bit of a luxury item. In normal circumstances, we're usually okay. I'm very good at planning exactly how long I have to go before I, and it's usually somebody's going to town once a week, which is usually my father-in-law. But I explained yesterday, he's in quarantine at the moment, so he's not going to town this week. And the kids ate a lot of cereal last week. So the milk was starting to get down a little bit. So, and to be right up front, I actually don't mind drinking my coffee black. I've gotten very used to it over the years, and I do still have some milk. I just don't have a lot of milk. And sometimes I might like to give Nicholas a glass of milk too. So people suggested freezing it. I have frozen milk before, but I can only do that at home in London, because here on the cottage on the bay, on the island, I don't have a freezer. My father-in-law has one small freezer above so he has a fridge freezer, but both he and us, we use fridges that are powered by our solar system. And the fridges that we use, I actually have two fridges. Think about an oversized bar fridge, probably the biggest bar fridge you could find. And I have two of them stacked on top of each other. Most of the time, we only use one. We only plug in one. But if we're having company, if we're having guests, then we would plug in both fridges. But they take a fair bit of solar power. Fridges that have freezers in them take a lot more power. And so my father-in-law has lots of solar over there because it's just him, and he doesn't use the device. He doesn't do the device use that we do in our family of 4. He doesn't try to run a business using a sewing machine. So he can have a little freezer. So most of the stuff in his freezer is ours, because John and I do most of the cooking, and we share with my father-in-law. Most of the time he would just come over and eat here with us. But again, quarantine. So most of the stuff in his freezer are, staples that would be, we'd be hard pressed to put a meal together a week from now if I didn't have his freezer space. There is no room in there for milk. There's not even room for an ice cube tray when we do our grocery shop, if that makes sense. I need that room for meat and produce and things like that I have to freeze. So that's why milk is a luxury. Now, yes, there are other options. I could use skim milk powder, but you can ask my mother why I will never, ever, ever use skim milk powder. I would rather drink the coffee black. You can also use boxed milk, UHT milk. It has become very difficult to find, actually, lately in this area, and we've never been able to actually usually find it in London, but it's very common to find it for sale around here. but it's become a bit rare to find. So, and I don't love the taste of UHT milk. It's shelf stable, so, you know, until you open it, you can keep it on the shelf and it'll last. Anyways, there's my other story about milk. So that's why I can't freeze it. I don't have the room. I don't have a freezer. We used to have a gas fridge. We used to have a, you know, like imagine a fridge that you would have in an RV. That was actually the style of fridge that we had. And it ran off propane. And we did have a small freezer in that. But that was our biggest propane guzzler. It required a lot of gas to use it. And, you know, when you're trying to reduce your reliance on certain things and use a lot less of a thing, because it's not just like calling up the company and having them deliver your propane tanks. We have to go and collect our own propane tanks. So we have to, well, I'm using the royal we here because I have nothing to do with the collection of the propane tanks. That's all John and his dad and a few of the neighbors. Actually, it's kind of a little collection of people, though this year with COVID, they will probably have to go on, they'll do it on their own this year. So a few times a season, they have to drive the boat to Parry Sound, which it's a fair hike by boat going directly to Parry Sound. And at the town dock in Parry Sound is a business called Georgian Bay Propane. And you can take your tanks there and they will fill them up and then load them back onto your boat, and then you have to boat back and then of course unload the propane tanks. And keep in mind, we're on Canadian Shield. We don't have driveways. We don't have, even our pathways are there. You'd have to blast out rock or, build massive wooden structures if we wanted to build a pathway all the way down to the dock. It's quite a distance. It's not feasible. So usually the carrying of the propane tank up to the cottage involves a dolly and a lot of muscle. And so anything that we can do to cut down on the use of the propane is in John's book, it's a good thing. So that's why we have our fridges hooked up into the solar system. And we have a very robust solar system. It's doing quite well. We're in the middle of quite a gray time period at the moment. And even though there's a lot of cloud cover, I'm still getting some charge on the batteries. When the batteries get too low and there's not enough light to generate any charge, then I have to run the generator, and I can hook the batteries with a plug. I can hook a plug into the generator that will then charge the batteries back up. But of course, with no sun to regenerate them, they will go down again, but of course. So I don't know if any of you found that interesting or you tuned out long ago, but it's a very, I call it glamping. It's way above, the sort of comfort level of, I'm not, being derogatory about camping in any way, but it's a lot of the similar, you just think about things differently and how you're doing things differently. So I guess it's not really like camping at all. Hard to say. It's a completely different way of life and we love it. Can't complain. John and I did a really interesting video. Well, he did an interesting video. I just sat there and smiled at him the whole time. Last summer, a bunch of people asked us some questions last year, and we put out a video last year. I'll go in and find it, and I'll put a link to it in the drop down box below in case you're interested. It's more about the nuts and bolts of what we do up here. And maybe I'll be able to convince him to do another video with me again this summer. We'll see. What else was I gonna say? There was something else along that vein. Oh, somebody asked me, I think it was Dee asked me what were the reasons behind why we chose to do this. And I think I've mentioned before that my father-in-law and my in-laws purchased the land back here in the 60s. And I've been dating John forever. I was 16 when we met. So I've been coming up here since I was 17 years old. and fell in love with the place, the land, the nature, the style of the way of living up here. I fell in love with it as a teenager, and he grew up here. He was born coming up here as a baby, grew up on the water, boating, and you know, fishing, and doing all of the wonderful outdoor activities that you can do here. And that's why, I guess. So yeah, it's a special place. Okay, back to crafting, because I need to excuse myself and get back to some work this afternoon. And then after I've done my list of things that I'd like to accomplish today for work, I'm going to be getting back to my stitching on my Smalls exchange for the Stitch North Cross Stitch Retreat. And somebody, I think it was Nanette, Nanette sent me a text yesterday. And Nanette, I actually still have to respond to you, but I read it when it popped up on my phone and I was in the middle of doing something else. But I thought, oh yes, that's a good point. Nanette sent something to Canada, or somebody sent something, I can't remember. Anyways, long story short, Canada Post is really backed up at the moment, and things are taking a long time to reach their destination within Canada. So if you are sending something to Canada, chances are pretty good it's probably going to take a while. Now, we had said that everybody for the Stitch North Cross Stitch Retreat Smalls Exchange, what we were trying to do was have the Smalls arrive around this time that we were planning on meeting together for our original retreat date. So everybody was supposed to have their Smalls in the mail by September 1st. And Annette pointed out that, you know, with the delays sending things, that it might not be feasible, that some people might be waiting quite a bit longer than others to receive their exchanges. So, for example, when I'm sending packages to the United States from Canada, I don't use Canada Post. I'm actually using a third-party shipper who drives them over the border and puts them directly into the U.S. Postal Service. Those packages seem to be arriving in fairly good time, you know, maybe a little bit longer than before, but really not too much more. But for some reason, Canada Post is just really backed up. So now, having said that, Nanette had said that she was going to be sending her exchange within the next week so that it had a chance of getting there in time. I'm not sure that I won't be able to do that, because when I show you how far along I am, you'll see I'm not going to be ready to send my exchange piece right up until the last minute, because, well, I'll tell you, I don't want to say too much, because I'm going to tell Kimberly just to shut her eyes, and then I'll show you what I've done. Okay. So anyways, again, we might just have to expect that some people are going to receive their packages with delay. We have Sylvia, who is the one in charge of this exchange. She's done a marvelous job organizing everybody. All of the details about who's partnered with who is on the Stitch North Facebook group. And so I don't think we can ask people to send them earlier. So we'll just have to be understanding. These things happen. Okay, so I'm going to show you how far I am with what I've been working on Kimberly's piece. And then I am going to spend the rest of tonight working after I've done my other list of jobs. I'm going to be working on this diligently so that I can make sure that it's done in time. It's important to get this done in time. So Kimberly, close your eyes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show what I'm doing, and then I'll tell you when you can open your eyes again, if you're even watching this video. So just in case, Kimberly H, my partner, the one that I'm sending my piece to, because someone else is sending an exchange to me. So Kimberly H, close your eyes now. It's going to be... Okay, don't open your eyes yet. So this is how far I am. And as you can see, I've got some work to do. So I'm gonna take it down from the screen now. Kimberly, you can open your eyes again. And that's what I'm gonna be working on tonight, and I'll show you my progress tomorrow, okay? And that's it for me today. I better get going because I wanna make sure that I have enough time to put in the whip parade at the end of today's video. So those are gonna start back up again. I had way more emails backed up in my email list than I remembered. Frankly, the beginning of July is such a blur that I didn't remember that I had quite so many. So if you haven't heard from me, please give me, you know, I'm gonna be emailing people every night for the next few days so that I can get caught up. But I still have people who shared whips at the beginning of July, and I'm only just getting now started into being able to share them with you. So I'm so glad to be bringing this back because it's so much fun seeing what everybody else is working on and stitching while we're chatting. So, okay, that's it for me. I better go. Nicholas says that he would like to watch another Harry Potter movie today. So we'll have to see if we can fit that in too. All right, so I hope you're well. Thank you again. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Happy stitching.